Judge is the one who's still on the precipice here, who can either determine his fate on games like this. Is he a good coach? And we're going to find out in games like the one on Sunday, because this is actually a winnable game here for the Giants. I know you can talk to me about injuries. No. They're coming off of back-to-back blowouts against teams who were clearly superior, clearly in a different stratosphere than the New York Giants, the Rams, and the Cowboys. Those are possible Super Bowl teams. The Panthers aren't even close to that. The Panthers are missing their best player in Christian McCaffrey. Sam Darnold, as we all know, not capable of elevating the team in a truly significant way. Darnold's not coming in to slice and dice your defense. It's just not who he is. This is a game where the Giants, despite the injuries, can win with a good game plan. Is Joe Judge the right head coach for the Giants now in the future? Games like these is where we're going to find out.
Injuries an excuse?
I don't think so. Not with this game. Not against a team that's in free fall like the Carolina Panthers, who, again, lost their best player. The Giants, despite their injuries, Moose, their best player is still on the field. It's Daniel Jones. Their best player is available, by all accounts healthy, by all accounts ready to go, and not feeling any effects of that concussion. They still have their best player. They still have a defense that is intact. Can't blame the Blake Martinez injury anymore. You've had weeks to move on from that. This is a game where your coach has to be one of your biggest assets.
Do you like the idea that Judge sound more human over the past 24, 48 hours as compared to robo-coach answers? Well, say, taking accountability, the buck stops here.
Right, the fish stinks from the head.
Right, the fish stinks from the head down. Does that give you an idea that maybe you're seeing a little bit of an adjustment from Joe Judge, or no?
To be honest, no, because I was the one who, when he even first got hired, gave you football guy, and I was like, this feels like eyewash to me. You're going to come in, you're not going to mention Daniel Jones' name, you're not going to mention Saquon Barkley. I'm like, why start off like that? Because that's just not today's NFL. It's not showing weakness if you acknowledge that you have a quarterback and a running back who are two very high picks who we're still waiting to see them reach their full potential. So from the very outset, I thought it was an odd choice to make as to present yourself to the public that way. The more he gets human, the more it seems like that was an act.
You know what, the interesting thing, regardless what you find out about coaches, right? I'll bring up like D'Antoni with the Knicks as an example, right? Great offensive coach. And it's going to be, I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but just go with me for a second.
I'm with you.
All right, so.
You want to really bring up the Knicks again? Yeah. Go down. Let's do it. It's your funeral.
Well, that's true. Fair point.
It's been bad 24 hours from Malusa.
I bring up D'Antoni because when he was here, he didn't have all of his offensive players, and the Knicks really struggled, and it was about personnel. And my argument about whether or not how great of a coach D'Antoni was is that great coaches really define themselves with the ability to adjust as a coach, like what you saw Riley do, going from Showtime in Los Angeles here with the Knicks.
To the Knicks. Bruisers.
Completely different.
Yeah, half court.
Completely different. From running teams off the court to playing half-court games, in which drove the NBA and David Stern batty because it was such bad basketball that nobody wanted to watch because they were having like 16-point quarters. Like all of those
Final
things.
Score 86-82.
Right. In playoff games, right? As compared to what you're seeing right now. So I bring up the D'Antoni example is because I always thought, well, you prove yourself as a coach where you find a way to be competitive, even if you're dealing with injuries, even if you don't have the perfect personnel. Because Maggie, let's be honest, like if everyone's healthy, everyone's clicking, it's a perfect roster. There's a lot of guys in the National Football League that can guide that and be a good head coach.
Well, and also health is just the one thing in the NFL that's never the given. It's the given that you're going to lose guys. And, you can look at the offense and say, like, man, like 75% of the starters are out. I understand that. And against a team like the Rams and a team like the Cowboys, maybe we don't like it, but we can say they're not going to win that game. These teams are so much better than them. The Carolina Panthers are not one of those games.
No,
so to me, this is almost just as much about who you're playing. And that's why you got to play who's in front of you. You have a winnable game here. I mean, think about it. You're home. You've got your quarterback. I understand the offensive line is in tatters. I understand you're missing a lot of offensive weapons. And Evan Ingram landing on the did not practice yesterday list was a new one. But still, you have enough here with a good game plan to beat a team that is either on your level. It is not like, I know they're 3-point favorite right now, the Carolina Panthers on the road. This is far from insurmountable. And again, I'll take it to the defense. Sam Darnold is not going to come in and embarrass you. He shouldn't. Not with this defense, not with a secondary that's making as much money as they're making, not with a defensive line that should be able to stop the run or should have been able to stop the run. You don't have to deal with McCaffrey. And to be fair, Matt Rule got a 7-year deal for the Carolina Panthers. I know the Giants didn't make the trip to be in his driveway the day he came home from Cabo or whatever, as David Tepper did with the Carolina Panthers.
John Mara wasn't taking in his groceries.
Yeah, right, exactly. No offense, Matt Rule. I think he'll be a fine coach. You didn't pass on Parcells here. This should not be lopsided. This should be where Joe Judge and his staff, but Judge as the head, right? He said it yesterday. He's the head. They've got to outcoach this Carolina Panthers team, and they've got to come away with a win.
Well, they got 26 guys on that staff to be able to do it.
I'm sure it's just 26.
Right, and so that's the thing when you look at this, John. And I don't disagree. I think now the eyes turn to Judge. I think everyone looks at Dave Gettleman as a beaten down general manager, talent evaluator, guy whose days are numbered here.
Yeah.
Question is whether or not he's handling the NFL trade deadline. John Mara has gotten, obviously, his fair share amount of heat about where this organization is, how much losing they've done over the last 4 or 5 years, how they've turned into a laughingstock around the National Football League. Now, Joe Judge was brought here to be part of the solution. And, Maggie, I never thought we'd be at a stage this season, year 2 under Joe Judge, after what we saw last year. And I know the Giants went 6-10, but I was really impressed with Judge. I really was. I was a supporter, impressed by the way he handled things, the way that the team played, got better in the second half, the way they finished. A lot of that has gone by the wayside with the way that he's handled the team this year, to where you're starting to question what Judge's place is in that Giant organization, and if he indeed is the solution at head coach.
And it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be up to him this weekend, because I think we're going to figure out a lot about him. And it's a question that needs to be answered, because, there is a potential for a full house cleaning after this year. No Giant fan can look themselves in the mirror and say that's not on the table. I think most would actually be in favor of it if the season keeps going the way it's going. Maybe not Daniel Jones. Yet you don't necessarily have to make a decision on him. They could, do like what the Browns are doing with Baker Mayfield. Just let him play it out. You don't have to give him the extension necessarily. You can pick up the option. It's fine. Maybe you still are thinking that Jones can be salvageable just because when he had an offensive line earlier in the year, it did look a lot better. But for Judge, you have to find out if this is a 5-win team, a 4 or 5-win team. You got to know whether or not he's the guy, because to just double down or to keep him around when you potentially hire a new general manager, you're just still on the merry-go-round from hell.
It's interesting. The coach and the quarterback seem to be in the same scenario. When everything's right, they're pretty good.
Quarterback. Right.
He's a good
coach.
Daniel Jones, a good quarterback, and Joe Judge is a good head coach. When things are not right, the questions about Jones is, can you elevate your game to make the players around you better? Can you not look skittish in the pocket as you did against the Los Angeles Rams? And for Joe Judge, the right time to be aggressive. The one thing, every confidence in the world, at least I did as a coach, is that, all right, well, Joe Judge is going to learn on the job here, first-time head coach here in New York with the Giants. But I thought, well, he's going to be buttoned up. And there have been instances where he has not been buttoned up.
Pokes holes in the armor.
Where he's not been put this team in the best possible position to be successful, to where now you look at the coach and you look at the quarterback very, very similarly, where, as we asked Tiki Barber the question yesterday when he joined us, is Daniel Jones the quarterback? He said, for now. Is he the quarterback in 5 years? We'll see.
Right.
That's not exactly what you want to hear about a third-year quarterback. Even though I like Jones, I think you like Jones. We both thought he was going to have a good year, and he's shown you flashes this year. Last week, Daniel Jones, you saw the warts to his game, and I know the Giants are missing a lot of players. I know everyone has injuries, but as Bill Parcells once said, nobody cares about injuries.
Right.
It's time for Daniel Jones to step up, and in turn, it's time for Joe Judge to step up as well.
Definitely. And listen, you're going in already knowing, again, we talk about it so much, and it just makes me want to kill myself, but the offensive line, we know these tackles are not going to be able to get it done. So how do you work around that? How do you shore that up? How do you make sure that you are making up for these deficiencies, buying a little bit more time, having more tight ends, blocking for you, chipping with the running backs, whatever it's going to be, you got to be able to have a little bit more time here for Daniel Jones. You know this going in. So if we see like guys coming around the edge on Solder and coming around the edge on Parrott, I'm going to be super disappointed because this should not be a shock to anybody that the tackles are going to be a weakness. What do you do as a coaching staff to try to make sure that that doesn't level you against a team that you should be competitive with?
Well, can Jason Garrett put together a game plan to be able to have the understanding of what his offensive line can do and what he can't do? Is that too much to ask for the offensive coordinator?
It has been so far.
I agree with you, and that's
not trying to be snarky about it.
No, but that's a problem. That is a problem. They used the over aggressiveness of the Washington defensive line against them when they had a lot of those designed runs. And I get they're not the same old line with Andrew Thomas. We've talked about it. He evolved. He's a franchise left tackle. Now he's not only dealing with a foot injury, he's also dealing with an ankle injury, and he was placed on IR earlier this week.
Right.
That is a hit along that offensive line. But there's a lot of offensive lines that are out there that aren't exactly perfect. It's a matter of finding a way to win a football game. It doesn't have to look pretty.
No.
Doesn't have to look brilliant. Doesn't have to be a tour de force performance, Maggie. Sunday, and I like Darnold, but with Sam and the Carolina Panthers coming to town with no Christian McCaffrey, this is a game that the Giants, and there aren't many on the schedule,
right.
This is a game the Giants need to win.
No doubt. 877-337-6666. I think it comes down to whether you think Joe Judge is the guy. And is it games like this that are going to be the referendum on him about whether or not he's actually a good coach? Last year, I thought, right coach for the right team. Got a lot of buy-in and a season that didn't have a lot of expectations. You knew you were turning the roster over a lot of that stuff, right? This year, you did have expectations. I can't say you do at this point. I mean, you're 1-5. So are you going to find out what type of coach you have this weekend? You're undermanned, but not to the extent that it should be an absolute whitewash. You're playing a team you should beat. 877-337-6666. Let's go to Rick. He's in Tampa. Up first. Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Hi, guys. Happy Friday to you, both of you.
Thank you.
You're exactly right. And real quick, Moose. No, I think Daniel Jones has played better a couple games this season, and Judge has been awful every game. I mean, his coaching has been miserable, overseeing everything from special teams to defense and everything. So, but going back to what you were opened up with, I agree. This. We gotta. The offense is gonna have to struggle. Is gonna struggle. We're missing offensive linemen. We have weapons are out. But Joe Judge is gonna have to coach this team. He's gonna have to get with the defense and say, "This is where we have to win this game." And Phil Simms said it the other day on a Big Blue Kickoff, and I agree 100%. If they give up 4 or 5 touchdowns to Sam Darnold and this Carolina team, and we lose ugly again, something's going to happen because that would be totally unacceptable. You have to rally around the defense. There's going to be a defense. You got to win this game. Show up, don't drop every ball that comes in your hands.
Well, for the secondary, for sure, because we know Darnold's going to leave a couple ducks on the pond.
No question.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got
Look at me, football girl.
Evan made a point the other day on his show, and I know it's a little early to talk about it, but with our first couple of draft picks, and we're going to have possibly top 5 picks, Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years to the Giants.
Are we going down this road? We're going to do this?
Yeah.
Are we doing it, Rick?
I'm going down it.
You're going.
We're going down that road next.
I feel like we're at the top of the cyclone.
That's what I like the idea. What we'd have to give up, one of our first for him? I mean, no, we don't have to give up anything because he'll be a free agent. So that's just an idea. But yes, it's on Judge. He's got to wrap his coaching arms, not the compete level crap. Wrap his arms around it and say, "Let's win this game. This is a winnable game, and they have to win this game.
Must win it."
Yeah, and Judge is taking
not a
hit.
must win, but you know what I mean.
You know who else is taking a hit? Graham's taking a hit this year as defensive coordinator. He has. Team and I get they don't have Dalvin Tomlinson along that defensive line, and secondary has dropped some interceptions. They've been in a position to make plays here, but the game plans at times schematically with Graham. And maybe, Maggie, it's a case of, and I'm not looking this to excuse anything. Last year, no fans in attendance. This year, fans in attendance. We talked about how, who joined us, the analyst who joined us, who talked about the complexity of the Graham scheme in the secondary, saying he had to watch the game film. I think it was Stink. Mark
Schlereth was doing a lot of Giants games last year.
Yeah, so I think he said at the time, maybe it's a case where the communication, because of the noise now, I have no idea.
But it's funny, though, because you got veterans along that line.
No, you do.
You
And
know?
I'm not trying to excuse it. The defense has been really bad. You came into the year expecting the group to be really good. And I'm not telling you that they were going to be a top 2 unit in the league, but you thought
I thought they'd be a top 10 defense.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And they have
That
not
looks
even been
off.
close to that.
That looks like a bad take. But I mean, between the Bradbury and Logan Ryan and Adoree Jackson, and you have obviously Leonard Williams, you have Dexter Lawrence.
There's enough talent.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no doubt you are hurt by losing Blake Martinez. Hopefully, Bednarik McKinney's ready to go at some point soon. Add to the linebacker core. I mean, you can't just say the whole defense goes in the toilet because Blake Martinez got hurt. I mean,
Not
I know
Mike
he's
Singletary.
I mean, I know he's calling the plays defensively. He's got the green dot on his helmet, but at some point, like, injuries are just the given in the NFL. So you really just can't blame it all on one guy. Defensively, the health, knock on wood, has been there.
Yeah, you can't look at this year and say, well, we just caught bad breaks earlier in the year. Guys went down to injury and the season was lost. Nobody wants to hear that.
Well, they were
And now
0-3 when they had good health.
Now it puts even more pressure on what Judge is as a coach. Figure out a way. Find a way. We'll get into Sal and the Jets a little bit later on, Maggie. We'll continue with your Giant calls here.
Are we going to go down the Aaron Rodgers route right now?
I don't think so. But you'll learn a lot about Judge here the rest of this regular season. For Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you're going to look at the Giants.
We thought last offseason was like, full of Aaron Rodgers and the cryptic. Imagine what next offseason is going to be like.
It's going to be
the free agent tour.
Washington, unless they get Tua from Miami, will be in on them. I would imagine New Orleans would probably be in on
again.
Denver will probably be in on them.
Carolina could be.
Denver, as they say, as Buck said last night, they continue to search for a quarterback after the Manning era. It's amazing.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. Like they can't find a quarterback if their life depended on.
No.
Life depends on
And
it.
Unfortunately, Bridgewater just doesn't look like himself.
He doesn't.
Playing through an injury, and it's just really difficult.
Down 10-0, that interception in the end zone was awful.
Just stinks. I mean, that game was just beyond boring too.
Oh, it was a bad. I know it ended being a competitive game. It's
Competitive,
17-14.
but like it wasn't good.
It was not a good football game. It was not. You didn't get great sports last night. I mean, the Rangers were an interesting watch. The Dodgers blew out the Atlanta Braves. They come back from 2-0 down, win that game 11-2. The NBA games are not great, so not a great sports night. But hopefully it's a good football Sunday. Slate's not great. We'll get into that. We've got our picks coming your way later on. Pick of the day coming your way later on the program. Carl Banks will join us in the noon hour. We've got Nick Costos will join us in the 1 o'clock hour as well. We're just getting going. A little Giant football. Pressure on Joe Judge. What do you want to see from the Giants head coach Sunday? I understand the easy answer is a win. I get that.
It's not so easy.
Yes.
Turns out.
Find a way to win a game if you're the Giants. We want to hear from you. 877-337-6666.